watching WUFT Midday.
City of Gainesville is hosting a watch party at Bo Diddley Plaza for the NCAA championship game. The game will be shown on a 16 by 9 foot LED video wall. The event is free to the public and attendees are encouraged to bring their own chairs and blankets.
As Gainesville cheers on the Gators tonight, city leaders are asking fans to celebrate safely and are encouraging residents to be aware of your surroundings and drink responsibly. Leaders are asking you to make sure you never drink and drive. Instead, designate a sober driver, use a rideshare service, or take public transportation. Leaders want to remind fans only those 21 and older can drink legally.
As fans across Gainesville prepare for the game, Dunkin' is joining the hype with something special they launched over the weekend. Dunkin' has added a special edition donut takeover at 4 Gainesville locations. It features orange and blue icing, orange and blue sprinkles, and Gators designs. But that's not all. There will also be giveaways. Fans can score exclusive co-branded Dunkin' and UF Gators tumblers.
I was really engaged with the team before, but the Final Four run just makes it so much sweeter in the end.
Ahead of the game. You can grab one of these special donuts at any of these locations listed on your screen.
I'm seeing a lot of happy faces around campus with everyone getting ready for the Gator game tonight, but the weather's looking a little uncertain. UF meteorologist William Maxham is live in the weather studio tracking a round of storms heading to north central Florida.
Yeah, these storms are very intense. In fact, we have 2 active tornado warnings. This is Leon County, just to the west of Tallahassee. We've been seeing reports of debris perhaps being lofted in one of these cells here. So very serious round of storms here. Winds are going to be around 60 miles an hour as this line of storms moves through. Very intense storms going to be arriving here right around the time the sun goes down. That's our biggest risk for today. Severe weather is the damaging winds that are expected. We could see 60 mile an hour winds and potentially some very heavy rains as well. Flash flooding, somewhat of a concern, but the biggest concern is winds, and we'll track those storms as they roll through coming up in a few minutes.
As the world is feeling the weight of heavy reciprocal tariffs implemented by President Donald Trump, Americans around the country are coming together to voice their hands-off stance on Trump's policies. NBC's Alice Barr has more on how these taxes are having a taxing effect on citizens' lives worldwide.
This morning, markets bracing for what could be another wild week on Wall Street as investors grapple with President Trump's new tariffs.
What's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger.
A minimum 10% tariff kicked in over the weekend against trading partners across the globe, set to rise even more on Wednesday for dozens of countries. The White House says more than 50 have now reached out about lowering trade barriers.
They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country.
The Treasury Secretary pushing back against recession fears and added anxiety for Americans who want to retire, seeing their savings plunge.
I think don't look at the day-to-day fluctuations of what's happening.
Democrats reject that, slamming the president's response.
People have seen their retirement savings on fire, and there he is out on the golf course.
Not going back. Nationwide, hands-off protests over the weekend rallied against Trump administration policies, including the growing immigration crackdown, as the White House faces a deadline today to return a man wrongly deported to a notorious El Salvador prison. Kilmer Abrego Garcia, a husband and father with no criminal conviction, was granted legal status in the U.S. in 2019. A federal judge saying his detention appears wholly lawless. The Trump administration says he's affiliated with the MS-13 gang, though the Justice Department's own lawyer acknowledged the absence of evidence in court. Attorney General Pam Bondi now placing that lawyer on administrative leave. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
The CEO of JP Morgan is sounding the alarm bell about President Trump's tariff policy. WUFT's Gabe Vargas joins us live in the studio to tell us what shareholders have to say about the matter.
In his annual letter to shareholders, Jamie Dimon wrote the tariffs are likely to increase inflation and slow down growth. However, he says it's unclear if they will also cause a recession. Dimon also warned the tariffs, along with Trump's American First policy, could undermine America's position in the world. He had recently argued the U.S. economy appeared to be in solid shape, but Dimon struck a different tone in the letter, writing the U.S. and the world face the most perilous economic environment since World War II. Stock markets in Asia and Europe plunged Monday, and its futures pointed that U.S. stocks will follow suit. Live in the studio, Gabe Vargas, WUFT News.
Hands-off protests against President Donald Trump and Elon Musk erupted nationwide over the weekend. Crowds turned out to protest the Trump administration's gutting of federal agencies, economic turmoil, and expansion of executive power. Participants held signs that targeted Trump's key advisor, Elon Musk, mass federal layoffs, immigration crackdowns, and U.S. involvement in Ukraine and Gaza. They chanted, "Hands off," as they took to the streets. Musk has led the Department of Government Efficiency during Trump's second term, leading efforts to reduce the federal state. Hands-off demonstrations were organized by more than 1,200 locations in all 50 states by more than 150 groups.
A bill outlawing weather modifications in Florida passed in the state Senate, stirring conversation about the chemtrail conspiracies. This was a bill filed by Senator Ileana Garcia and endorsed by Governor Ron DeSantis. Garcia's bill was made to ban geoengineering and weather modification, prohibiting the injection or release of chemicals into Florida's atmosphere. Critics believe this bill was inspired by the chemtrail conspiracy theories that poisons are spread by planes by the government. Both DeSantis and Attorney General James Othmeier have expressed support for the legislation on social media. And Garcia has said conspiracy theories about weather modification were not behind her filing of the bill.
A U.S. district judge temporarily blocked a new Florida law aimed at cracking down on undocumented immigrants. The block law would create state crimes for undocumented immigrants who enter or re-enter Florida. If convicted, these immigrants could face 9 months prison terms and longer sentences. The Farm Worker Association of Florida and 2 plaintiffs filed the lawsuit, claiming it violated Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. A hearing is scheduled for April 18th to hear the plaintiffs' request.
Protesters gathered outside Representative Kat Cammack's office over the defunding of the National Institutes of Health. WUFT's Victoria Perez tells us how people are reacting to the news.
Every Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., protesters plant their feet and their signs in front of Florida Representative Kat Cammack's Gainesville office.
They know the decisions they're making are hurting people.
Gainesville resident Jean Mills hopes the representative will hear their concerns.
You need to listen to your constituents and you need to come talk to us.
The stance in this moment involves the National Institute of Health's mass layoffs and funding cuts. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced plans to reinstate some personnel and programs affected by the layoffs.
We're streamlining the agencies. We're going to make it work for public health, make it work for the American people.
A promise Judy Hunt is unsure about.
I vote, we count, we care for America.
She has a personal connection to the issue. Her daughter is a doctor.
Whether it be medicine, medical care, whether it be education, those are so much more important than a bottom line.
That's why Mills says she'll keep coming out.
Come on, America. We need a level playing field. We need to treat each other with respect and with equality, and to help those in need.
For them, it's until next Friday.
That was Victoria Perez reporting. Regarding the protest, Kat Cammack's office told us they have no comment.
If you were up late Saturday night, you may have caught the SpaceX rocket launch. This launch was part of the Starlink 6S-7 mission that took off from Cape Canaveral. The mission carried 28 Starlink internet satellites to orbit atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. These satellites aim to expand global internet coverage, providing high-speed internet, particularly in underserved areas. Another launch will be happening today at 3 p.m., sending another 28 mini satellites into low Earth orbit.
If you're in a rush to watch tonight's Gator game, you're in luck. You can see traffic is moving nicely along I-75 with clear skies in sight. But will this weather hold up for tonight's game? UF meteorologist William Maxham is here to give us a rundown of what we can expect for today's forecast and later this week.
Yeah, the short version is no, it is not going to hold up. You're going to be wanting to watch the game indoors this evening because that's going to be right around the time this line of storms is going to be in our area. And it is a very intense line of storms. We're zoomed in tight. This storm, still severe, did have a tornado warning on it just about 10 minutes ago. Still has a tornado possible mentioned in the wording here with this storm. We've seen a lot of rotating areas along this line of intense storms that have produced warnings through the morning, and we'll continue to see that risk into the afternoon as this line of storms travels further to the east. We have a tornado watch for these pink shaded areas until 6 o'clock this evening. Which doesn't include us here in Alachua County. This is just to our north, but we're going to watch trends to see if these storms do maintain their intensity as they track eastward. They're expected to weaken a bit, though, as we get later into the afternoon. Still, there is a slight risk of storms reaching severe intensity in our area. That is going to be mainly for winds. The rain has been pretty impressive too, 3 inches per hour in this intense line of storms. Fortunately, it's moving quick enough that flooding not going to be a huge concern. Rain should get here into the early evening. We've got a warm and windy day ahead until those showers do arrive. That wind occasionally going to gust over 30 miles an hour this afternoon as we remain very warm and sticky ahead of those storms. Temperatures should max out into the upper 80s today before those storms get here. Should time out for about 5 or 6 this evening. Again, those winds are very strong. Let's look at the timing there. I think we'll see the storms peaking right around the time the sun goes down. About 100% chance of rain at that time with lesser risks later on into the evening. There's the storms. And now let's quickly time it out as that line approaches north central Florida. We're looking at that rain pretty much on top of us, zoomed right past it into the early evening. Showers will be winding down around midnight, and we'll be seeing showers pretty much over with by the time the sun rises tomorrow. Temperatures are much cooler behind the line of storms. We're only into the 70s for highs tomorrow. Temperatures will be right around the 50s for early morning lows.
Being healthy should be a lifelong goal, but as the weather gets warmer and vacations may be looming, you may have found motivation to shed pounds put on during colder months. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to a sports medicine doctor about what to do now to get fit for the summer.
You might be eyeing that swimsuit and the number on the scale. If you have a fitness goal to reach before summer, start now.
It's very reasonable to see weight loss in the first few weeks. However, in order to really put on muscle mass and develop muscle tone, that often develops over more of a longer time period, roughly 8 to 12 weeks.
Dr. Matthew Anastasi with Mayo Clinic says health should be a long-term goal, but if you've suddenly found motivation, set yourself up for success by eating a well-balanced diet, a combination of fruits and veggies and lean proteins, while avoiding processed foods and added sugars. Next, be physically active. 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week is recommended. And switch it up. Do cardio some days and strength and resistance training other days.
I think the biggest key is to not try to go from 0 to 60 right away. We often see a lot of soft tissue injuries the beginning part of the year because people start the year off with a New Year's resolution and they go from not being active at all and being rather sedentary to trying to run 5 miles per day.
To stay motivated, Anastasi says to build exercise into your schedule. He says getting good quality sleep is also key, allowing your body to recharge. And remember to stay hydrated. Avoiding alcohol can also help.
There can be a lot of unnecessary calories and sugar in alcohol. So when you're looking at trying to lose weight, those can be working against you.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The doctor says he often is asked the best diet for getting healthier. He recommends the Mediterranean diet, which is plant-based with healthy fats and a moderate amount of fish, poultry, eggs, and dairy. He says that diet in particular can help a person lead an active lifestyle while eating well-balanced meals.
A recent study suggests that what you eat in midlife may affect how healthy you are when you're older. In a study released by Nature Journal, researchers followed over 100,000 Americans between the ages of 39 to 69 for 30 years. The goal, to see who achieved healthy aging. That means by age 70, they were free of major chronic diseases and their cognitive, physical, and mental health was maintained. The researchers found that less than 10% had achieved healthy aging. People who did reach healthy aging had diets that were high in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, unsaturated fats, and high nuts. High consumption of ultra-processed foods was associated with lower chances of healthy aging.
It's time to check if your identification is real. On May 7th, anyone traveling from the ages of 18 and up will have to show a real ID to any domestic flight. That includes updated state driver's licenses or state-issued identification with real ID markings, which are stamps on the right-hand corner of accepted documents. However, you can still use your passport as an alternative way to show identification as well. This policy was supposed to be enforced back in 2020, but was pushed back due to the COVID pandemic. Now let's take a look at what's coming up today at 5 on First at 5. Come back at 5 for everything you will need to know ahead of tonight's big game. We have a team of reporters who will go live in San Antonio to show you how the Gators men's basketball team is getting ready for the national championship. Plus, our reporters will take you across Gainesville and tell you how the city is preparing to cheer on the team from home. We will tell you everything you need to know, from where to watch the game to how to get home safely after.
Before we go, William, one last check on the weather.
Yeah, we got a line of very intense storms now moving through the Panhandle. It should arrive into our area right around the time the sun is going to be going down this evening. Those storms will be intense, packing winds potentially as high as 60 miles an hour. There is a chance of an isolated tornado or two. We'll be watching that risk through the afternoon. There's a watch for parts of the Panhandle. It doesn't include us yet, but we're expecting severe storms in this evening. Much better tomorrow, though. The temperatures will be into the 70s. We're much cooler through the rest of the week into the weekend.
Thanks for joining us for WUFT Midday. We're back here tomorrow for another edition.
We'll see you later today for First at 5 on Channel 5. Have a great afternoon.